thought he was a Newcastle fan.
You
can't forget.
He's a
You can't
Newcastle
forget
legend.
PSG. Absolute legend.
And he's a legend for saying they'll win the title, and I fully back him. No,
you don't.
But do you know what? To be fair to him, I think he is right that they have had the hardest start to this season.
Yes, I agree with that. I totally agree with that, and they'll finish top 4, Newcastle. I'm not throwing it out there. It's not a bold statement. They'll finish top 4, and I do think when you think of Aston Villa, the opening game of the season, you thought they were going to be a team that are competing for that 6th, 5th, 4th spot along with Newcastle, and they destroyed them. Yeah. Absolutely destroyed them. And after that, everyone, and that might have been when Stuart Pearce actually said that. I think it might have been after that game. And you're still saying no chance, but there's an argument that you can predict something like that after a result against Aston Villa 5-1. Then to go, who was next? Man City. Look, it's a tough start, Man City, and that was out of all of them. I know Brighton they were poor, but out of all of them, that was the most disappointing. And you being a Newcastle fan will probably say they didn't offer nothing. And you see at the end, Eddie Howe was disappointed that you want to go toe-to-toe. You want to offer something. With the abundance of talent going forward Newcastle have. But they have one shot, I think, in the game, and it wasn't good enough. And Man City won that at a canter, to be honest, which was disappointing. Liverpool should have won. That
was the most disappointing for me.
Yeah.
100%, and not just because of the way they lost it. Just the fact it was Liverpool, and I think any Newcastle fan at the moment would say to you, like, especially as they were the only team to do the double over us last season, and they've built up this. I mean, it's always a good game, Newcastle Liverpool, isn't it? It's always exciting. It's always, it's got that Premier League history, but I really, really, really didn't want to lose to them. Yep. And the fact they were 1-0 up, Liverpool down to 10. And it's the first time under Eddie Howe I genuinely thought they've actually thrown that away.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it was last season, wasn't it, that it was Carvalho scoring the last kick of the game 3 minutes over. I was actually covering that game for talkSPORT Live, and it was they shouldn't have lost that game either, but actually picked a time where Darwin Núñez actually turned up, which was frustrating. And we've probably Newcastle probably turned his career at Liverpool around, and he'll have a sensational season, no doubt. And then you go to Brighton, who are flying as well under De Zerbi.
I think Brighton away is a very tough game.
Very tough. If you get anything out of that, you've done well.
Yeah, and I think traditionally we don't do that well at the Amex either. And listen, it's a weird one with Brighton because it tends to be that they thrash us at their place and we thrash them at our place. They're a very, very hard team to play against, and they're banging form as well, other than that loss, of course, to West Ham. But yeah, in terms of the start to the season for Newcastle United, it is 3 losses in a row. It's, I think, the first time I've seen a few questions about some of the things Eddie Howe is doing. He's making the same substitutions around the 70-minute mark. They're not really working. How have you thought about his performance so far? Do you think that he is under a bit of pressure?
No, I don't think he's under pressure. I think he's done enough last season to warrant the whole season. Unless they lose the next 10 on the bounce, then he'll be under pressure. But you see the atmosphere, even away at Brighton, losing 3-1, the support that the team and Eddie Howe had was sensational. I was seeing clips on social media of the fans, the away fans, staying and singing and cheering the team off. They've got the club back. You know this out of more than most. They've got the city deserves this. The support deserves this. And it's been a tough start to the season, but got to a cup final last season. They were in the Champions League. They're going to Milan soon, which first time in the Champions League for what? I was there, I think, when they were in the last 17 years, 16, 17 years ago. It was absolutely incredible. They're doing the right things. They're signing the right players. Tonali's a great signing, and it'll be great. But you've got Dan Burn, who was fantastic last season, not really started. Nick Pope, who was great last season, not really started. Guimaraes, again, great last season, not really started this season. They've still got to come together, and they're not going to win the league. Let's be honest, they're not going to win the league. I think last season, 5 defeats, and Man City, they won the league. Season before that, 4 defeats, Man City won the league. They've already had 3 defeats, so unless they go unbeaten for a long, long time, which they won't. But top 4 is...
Newcastle actually only had about 5 defeats last season.
Exactly, and they drew too many last season. So 1 win, 3 defeats, no draws. It'll turn around. Of course it will. They're too good. They're too good of a team. they've got to deal with the Champions League being involved in this as well. So it's going to be difficult, but I still feel they're not outsiders for a top 4, top 5, which it may be. We don't know that yet, but I think there'll be Champions League football again next season.
That's a big call from you, Darren. But it's funny because I actually don't think you should judge Newcastle on those 4 first games, and I include the Aston Villa game in that. I actually think we'll learn a lot about this team for the next fixtures that are coming up. They've got Brentford, then they've got at home, then they've got Milan away. I think they then play Burnley after that. After that, do you know what? For the life of me, I can't remember. But it's another fixture that, on paper they should win.
Yeah, it's Brentford, Sheffield United, Burnley.
Sheffield United,
yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
So I think when you look at those fixtures and the fact that there is a Champions League game or two sandwiched in between that, that's where you think, right, there's the test for Newcastle United. And because they're the games they need to win.
They have to win these games. And this is where Eddie Howe, this is why managers earn the big bucks, and this is why the players of the Premier League earn the big bucks, because they have to react to what is a poor start. The difference between this season and last season, and it's going to be difficult, is yes, they've got Brentford next league game, then they've got Milan before Sheffield United. Now, you can't play a second string against Milan.
No.
You're in the so-called group of death, which I disagree with. I think it's a fantastic group for the Newcastle team.
How do you think they'll do?
I think they'll go through. I think they'll get through.
So they've got AC Milan, Borussia Dortmund and PSG.
Yes.
You think they'll go through?
Yeah, I think they'll win all their home games and maybe get one.
PSG?
Yes, I think they will. I think, look, you know more than most not more than me, but more than most, what St James's Park is like on a European night under the lights. It's sensational, and I think that will be enough to pull them over the line. And I think, look, it's a prediction. It's not a fact. It's a prediction. I think they'll win every home game in the Champions League, and I think the Newcastle supporters love this group. Everyone's calling it the group of death. Unless you're thinking we're going to win it, which the players will, by the way. Eddie Howe will still believe that, but the supporters probably think we're not going to win. So let's get the best ties we can. And this group is fantastic. I think they'll go through.
Dan, I said to every single person who asked me about the draw before, who do you want? You were in pot 4. And I said to I want the biggest teams. We might not make it through a group with some of the teams that I'm not too bothered about, let alone playing some of the biggest teams across Europe. So the fact we've got that group is really, really exciting. And yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When you think about Newcastle's European campaigns in the past, everyone talks about that night when they beat Barcelona at St James's Park, that night when they beat Juventus. They're going to have the chance to have some of those nights again, whatever happens. So
and they will.
Very, very exciting.
They will have those nights again. I was involved with Newcastle. We got to the semi-final UEFA Cup. Okay, that wasn't the Champions League, but still a huge tournament. And that's probably up there with Newcastle's biggest regrets. We should have won that tournament. Yeah. We should have won it. We lost to Marseille, where we were the better side, missed some big chances at the Velodrome, and a young Didier Drogba came on and destroyed our hopes. And that still eats at me now, being that I could have been one of those that won a trophy at Newcastle, and they still haven't. But these huge European nights are back at St James's Park, and everyone's going to love it.